Yes.
Oh, sorry, you're running away.
Okay. Great. We are on the conference P3 Momentum. So, what is your personal momentum?
My personal momentum, and my perspective anyway, is of an explorer. One of the speakers this morning was saying that we're all explorers. We all have to explore the world. We all have to be ready for any change. That's very much my perspective. As a child, I wanted to be an explorer. Now I am one, and so I suppose I've come here to talk about different cultures, different perspectives. And my background, very much as an explorer, is to turn to the local people and understand what they see as a challenge, what they see as a threat. And so I've come here to share my experiences.
What you found out?
What have I found out in the whole world? I suppose, I think the biggest thing that I found out is that humans are all the same. Some of the people that I've lived with in the Amazon and in New Guinea, they look so different from us. Their culture, in one of them, one ceremony, I was made into a man as strong as a crocodile, and I was beaten every day, and I was scarred with permanent crocodile scars, and it sounds so different from our ordinary life, and yet, actually, in that society, there was the same number of gentle people, aggressive people, generous people, meek people, and same I found in all over the world, whereas it may look like people are very different from us. Actually, I found humanity is the same everywhere. It may seem like an obvious thing, but we tend to think of other people as different. It's just our nature. We think we'll be loyal to our people. But actually, if you can make these connections with other people and get their loyalty, the world's your oyster.
You are explorer. Would a robot be better explorer than you or than the human?
Wow.
Because we are on the conference and a lot of speakers were talking about the robots and artificial intelligence. So
I think it would all come down to empathy. Can the robots ever empathize? They can be very efficient and, for example, they could map read better, they could locate themselves better. These things are very rational things, and I'm an explorer who doesn't take a lot of modern technology. For me, it's all about learning to see the world in the eyes of local people. And I can succeed only because I am empathetic. So I think robots would produce a better map. They produce a better species count. They could calibrate the world better. But I think there is a role for one human sitting down with another human of a totally different tribe, totally different culture, and just saying, look, I want to be your friend, or I want to learn. A robot could maybe simulate that, and let's suppose it'll get better and better. But I think there'd always be a suspicion, certainly with the people I'm with who are very remote, coming across a robot, they just think, no, this is aggressive, this is alien. And I think I've got to always not be the alien.
One more thing about the robots, because today we talk a lot of the robots. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the humankind, our future?
I was less pessimistic. I was more I was more pessimistic about a year ago because I thought, I'm someone who studies the environment. University, I did 2 degrees, and then later on, I've been out there all the time, and I've seen environments being degraded, ecosystems, forests being clear-felled. But suddenly, in Britain, but I think across Europe, we're coming suddenly more aware of, for example, plastic pollution. There's a real movement now of people, just ordinary people, saying, no, I demand a change. Climatic change, I worry about hugely because I don't think some of our leaders are embracing it as a real problem. And this, to me, is fundamental, that democracy is very, very slow in solving these things. These are long-term perspectives that we need. And if politicians are just dealing with the next couple of years, then we're not going to get anywhere. So it really needs the people to say, this is no good for my children, for my grandchildren. So the answer is, I'm more optimistic than I was. I think I've seen humans show how much potential they have. It's just going to be a race against time. Will humans quickly adapt, or will they slowly adapt? If we adapt slowly, if we start changing only slowly, when we see what damage we're doing, when it's very, very obvious, then there's no hope. If we can be quick. And this is what the conference is all about. It's all about agility. It's all about being ready.
Okay. this is the B2B conference mainly, so I have to ask you, for you personally, what are, or from your perspective, what are the main challenges for the companies today, these days?
For companies, this is a difficult question for me because I'm an explorer and I sort of feel I'm apart from everyone. I've been brought in as an outsider to give my perspective. But there is something I'd like to say, which is that today has all been about communicating. Mm-hmm. That seems to me a central theme. Better communications, better understanding of each other. I'm often seen as a throwback to a different era. I'm seen as someone from the past. I'm like a Victorian explorer from the old days. Actually, I think it's incredibly important that people like me, step aside and have a perspective on the world. You know, in journalists often talk about churnalism in England, this idea that the same story churns round and round, it goes round and round. In Twitter, I see it all the time. In Facebook, I can see it all the time. I see politicians repeating the same ideas. You need people like me to stand back and say, look, this is how I see the world. But I think we should all be doing this. We need to get away. So for companies, one speaker, Sean, this morning, he was talking about Amazon and how they have to deprogram recruits to start taking risks. People think, oh, this is how we do it, this is how we do it. They have to start, when they go to Google, thinking, okay, I'm going to take risks, I'm just going to try it, run with this idea, run with that idea. They encourage that in their culture, and I can see that that is very important, and it's effectively what I have to do all the time. People see me as a risk taker. I see myself as a challenge taker who does take risks, but I calculate my risks. You know, but I'm ready for the challenge, and risk in itself is no good. But you've got to be ready to at least calculate that risk and give it a go.
Okay, enough about the companies. So we will focus on people, simple people. Do you have any simple recipe for success, for happiness?
Oh dear, I think no, because the people I live with in remote places, they have a simple life in that they don't have a clutter of consumerism, you could say. They don't have the aspirations, they don't have a mass of things around them to distract them from human relations. I think it's that is part of the recipe, that we must not be distracted. The consumerist model, this idea of always acquiring something better, is always going to be a recipe for lack of happiness. It'll always, the choices we get given will always make us feel we need more. So I suppose the recipe must be that we find a way of stepping aside, we find being with family. I mean, it's interesting in the Czech Republic that my wife being Czech, she has a very Czech perspective. Family is much, much more important. We've lost a lot of that in London. I can see that people actually, certainly in the countryside, are much more content. I'm not saying it's backward or anything like that, but I think they have part of the answer, which is that it's away from objects, it's away from aspiring for more and more things. But you know, how you achieve that is a different problem. I don't know how it's possible.
Okay, last but not least, I'm not sure, but you said that you were really close to that 9 times?
I almost died, yes. I'm someone who's almost died 9 times.
Wow!
Yes, isn't that lovely?
You survived. Don't want, so you seem a really experienced man, so what are the skills or what are the most important, most useful skills to survive this era, this digital jungle of today?
My main specialization, and the place where I've almost died most times, has been in rainforest, in the so-called jungle. And this is what interests me about this conference, because we're in a highly competitive world. And same in the rainforest. It's a jungle out there. What is going to jump out at you? Is it going to be a snake or a scorpion, or are you going to die slowly of a fever like malaria? And here it's the same. Who are your friends? Who are your enemies? I think the way to survive is to be ready. And that comes down to 2 things. Preparation. You prepare the best way you can. I had preparation from people who copied the crocodile. Therefore, they see it as important to be just resilient, to work together. and be defensive of your bit of the forest, and people who copied the jaguar. The jaguar people were agile. They were very good at looking for resources around them, like a jaguar. And together these two models are very, very good. For coping in the rainforest, you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready to exploit whatever resources are around. You've got to be resilient as well, but you've also got to be simply aware. Be ready for whatever's going to come out at you. And so in that respect, I think the jungle out there is the same as the jungle here.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thanks.
you.